So we're at the bar, and my buddy Brandon, we call him Scuba. He tells me that the first thing that he found that was going wrong was he had his phone in his hand, and he was asking his buddy, where's my phone? And his phone was right in his hand, and he's asking, where's my phone? And everyone's kind of like, what are you talking about, man? Your phone's in your hand. And he's like, no, my phone. Where's my phone? Well, he's holding his phone. And, and then the headache started coming, and then the clinical visits, and we found out that he had brain cancer. And he passed away probably about 6 months after that meeting that we had that day at the bar. And for me, that was kind of at that point in time, it was the most recent tragedy in a long series of tragedies that kind of made me say, all right, I've got to do something. I've got to create a platform. I've got to do something. Welcome to the SJ Primetime Show. This is your host, SJ Primetime. Joining me, two very special guests. These guys have already been an integral part of what we're trying to do, and they will continue to be an integral part of what we're trying to do. Joe and Chris Feely, they also run their very own YouTube channel called History Dose. Check it out. It's awesome. It's great stuff. I'll let these guys kind of introduce themselves, Chris and Joe. What's going on, guys?
Yeah, I'm Chris Feely, friend of Sam's, and we're just trying to help grow the podcast and sort of create the vision for it.
Yeah, I'm Joe Feely, so brother of Chris and also friend of Sam. And I'm mostly working with the visuals and the audio for this podcast, and I'm really excited. I think it has a lot of momentum, and Sam definitely has a lot of energy and a lot of stories to tell. So, yeah, I'm excited. Let's get started, boys.
Let's get it going. Yeah, I know I had a couple people reach out to me and say, man, where'd you get that logo? It's like, yeah, that's my guy, Joe.
You took complete credit for it.
That's me. That's all me. Yeah, I got the audio visual skills and
it's the
whatnot.
SJ logo.
Yeah,
of course I did it.
Right. Yeah, that's my brand. These guys are bringing kind of that professionalism that I don't know that I would have been able to accomplish right off the jump, to be completely honest. So I'm excited to kind of hitch my wagon to these guys. I think we've got a great partnership already, and I'm excited to kind of see what develops and how this thing goes, man.
All right. So yeah, I mean, to kind of go back what we were talking about you were talking about in the intro. So you mentioned your friend getting brain cancer. It was kind of like the last tragedy in a long line of events that kind of convinced you that you needed some platform to talk to people about things and to keep the memory of these people alive, but also kind of just work through issues. So do you want to talk about what happened before then? What got you to that point?
Yeah, so I think, for me, it goes back a few years ago. It goes back to, May of 2015. I was actually substitute teaching in Miss Willette's class, biology teacher. Shout out to Miss Willette. She was my 10th grade biology teacher. So I'm substituting in this class, and it was May, so it's the end of the year, and I had probably 3 or 4 seniors in the class, and on my sub notes it was like, these 3 kids need to finish this test, and then they're done. Like, they're done with school, they're done with this class. It's their last kind of box that they need to check as high school seniors. I was like, all right, this is great. So I gave them their test. Easy peasy. I'm reading the newspaper, just kind of waiting for them to be done. And this kid, he just pops up out of his seat and says, man, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. And actually, this student was a freshman when I was a senior. So I graduated in 2012. So it was just a couple years after I had graduated. And he said, Trey got shot. I gotta go. Trey got shot. And time kind of in that moment stood still, and I was like, whoa, what do you... Because I'm a teacher, right? So I need to kind of have this role of like, everything's going to be okay. Like I kind of need to be the glue in that moment that keeps the students together. And my mind starts racing, and about an hour or two later, the school guidance counselor came to my classroom, and she told me that Trey had been killed. And she was telling me that so that I could be aware of the culture in the school. She had no idea that I played high school football with Trey, that Trey was one of my good friends. And I just kind of buckled. I mean, my knees I just was like, oh my God. And she didn't even realize in the moment kind of the relationship there. And, you know, that happened and it was kind of like, okay. Selfishly, it was kind of like, you know, if that were me, what would my buddies do to kind of keep my legacy around? Selfishly, that's where I went. You know, selfishly, it was like, if that were me, what would my good friends do, whether it was like a charity event or a golf tournament or a flag football tournament or, you know, something along those lines. And it was like, I needed to do something to sort of honor Trey, to sort of tip my cap to Trey. I think, you know, it was a combination of wrong place, wrong time. It was a combination of, you know, bad choices. It was a combination of different variables. But for me, it was like, how can I turn this tragedy into something, you know, positive? And so when we go to Trey's service or his funeral in the wake and you know, it's like, you get everybody back together, you get the band back together, and it's nice to see everybody, but obviously under the circumstances, it's really sort of tragic. And then, you know, you fast forward a couple of months, and I was actually up at UMaine Orono. I was actually up at UMaine Orono that night with the guys. I mean, everybody. I mean, the Gillises, the Brunigs, the Gilligans, everybody and their brother, no pun intended, was up there. I mean, it was everybody. And, you know, we were going to go meet and rendezvous at the house party or this spot or that spot or whatever. And, you know, tragically, that was the night that DJ, you know, passed away. And having crossed that very same trestle that night, having interacted with DJ, you know, just you know, early in that night, through the night, you know, again, it was kind of like, you know, we've been here before. Like we, you know, geez, like, you know, just a few months after, you know, Trey, it was like, okay, kind of like here we go again. And so as a community, the Westbrook community, I mean, we rallied like we always do.
And you saw him like 40 minutes before he died, right?
Yeah, so we shuttled up from Southern Maine up to Orono, and we were at the Grove or at the, you know, wherever it was. And we get into, you know, someone's apartment. It's like you know, there's like 5 or 6 people that live there. Will Batherson, Jack Gilligan, the boys. And I mean, everyone's there. It's like, yo, what's up, man? You're dapping people up, your chest bumping, high-fiving, you know, and, you know, there's 30 of us, 30 or 40 dudes. And so we sort of broke it off into little chunks where, okay, you 8 are going to go this way, and then you 8 go that way, rather than rolling up to this party or this place with 40 kids, you know. So we kind of chunked it out that way. And so when I was getting to this residence, and I saw a DJ. He was leaving. Yeah. So we had hung out early in the night. We had crossed paths in the night, and we were going to finish the night together too. I mean, kind of start and finish the night together, and then kind of what happens in between gets a little, you know, some guys end up here or there or kind of whatever, but the night kind of takes shape. But that was the plan. And so the following day, it was kind of like, I mean, there was no, some guys sleep until 11. Some guys end up at Cumberland Hall, you know, the freshman dorm. Some guys end up over here and over there. And so we weren't really worried at any point. It was like, geez, you know, it's 9. Has anyone heard from DJ? No? Okay, well, he's probably, you know, his phone's dead or whatever. And then, you know, then 10, and then 10:30, then 11, then noon. And then it was kind of like, all right, where's DJ? And then, you know, then we're out looking, and then it's real. Now it's been, you know, 12 hours to 24 to 36 to 48, and now kind of the panic sets in. And so that was, you know, very, very real in kind of a different way. I mean, you never really have time to sort of like process or, you know, take it in. With the Trey thing, it was kind of like Trey was shot. you don't really even have time to process. The DJ thing was unique because it was like we were up there in real time. I mean, these things are happening, and we're still like, okay, well, where is he? We're looking for clues. We're looking for our buddy, and it's just, it's just no one's ready for that, or no one's like, it's not something that you practice or that you get reps in. It's just, it's just one of those things that you kind of have to,
Did it ever cross your mind when you were all freaking out about where he was that he could be dead?
I think for me, I can't speak for anyone else. For me personally, it was like, it was, I don't even know how to say it. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, DJ's 6'4", 6'5", 2.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a fucking massive dude, just an absolute stud. Went to Maine Maritime, strong swimmer, played defensive end. I mean, good hands, was a center. I mean, and we talked a little bit before the show, like if anyone's working themselves out of that mix, it's Deej. You know what I mean? If anyone's strong enough, if anyone's got that type of physical ability, it's Deej. And so for me, I remember asking Jack almost like, do you want to go look? And it was like, yeah, it was a no-brainer. But for me personally, it was not. That's weird. I mean, what do you do? Like,
did you call the cops, or did somebody already call?
Yep. So we had reached out to law enforcement and kind of the whole sort of. I mean, they had, I can't remember the name, but it was like not SWAT, but it was like they had like terrain vehicles and ATVs and water vehicles. I mean, and we had kids up, and we had kids from, Portland drive up, and we had kids from Maine Maritime, and we had like kind of all hands on deck. And I don't remember exactly if that was a Thursday night and a Friday, or a Friday night and a Saturday, but I remember like while this is still missing, while this is still going on, there's still a Saturday night. Like there's still people going out to the frats or going to the dorms or doing, and it's like, I mean, I'm up there for the weekend, and it was just like, it was a mess. It was a mess. And so, February 26th is when he went missing, and it wasn't until late April that we actually found his body. And so it was pretty tragic, man. It was pretty sad. And again, as a community, you kind of find ways to lean on each other and rally. But again, that was a moment where it was like, okay, again, I need to do something more. I need to challenge myself. I need to dig a little deeper. I need to something, and I don't know what that it is in February of 2016 or in April of 2016, but I know that there's something out there that's bigger than me that needs to be done. And so you fast forward a few months later, another one of my good friends growing up, Kevin Griskoviak, scrappy guy, basketball guy, long. Reminds me of Manu a little bit, like with the Euro. He was kind of like a Euro lefty, long, like a long point guard, rangy, decent jump shot. I'll give you that, Kev. Decent jumper. And so, Kevin, again, great kid. We all make some questionable choices sometimes, and I think he just, again, I can't speak to all the details, but he died the last day of 2016. And I actually, so that was New Year's Eve, and I don't remember, I think that was one of the first times Sarah and I actually spent New Year's together. We've been together like 4 or 5 years, and that was because we always joke like, we're never each other's New Year's kiss or whatever. And, I guess we always end up being New Year's kids. But
who was that last year?
Right, yeah. Wait, who was that? Well, she's always with like her girlfriends or whatever, and they're all, how that goes.
Yeah. Don't really remember.
Right, yeah. And so I actually remember that January 1st of 2017, there was a picture of Kevin on a table, like passed out, and it literally was like, rest in peace, Kevin, like, love you, man, whatever. And I ha-ha'd the post. Instead of, like, love, sad, wow, angry, react on Facebook, I clicked ha-ha because I thought someone was like, he's dead, like, he drank so much last night, like he couldn't handle himself. He still passed out. And I remember like, it didn't even register. Like it didn't even register in that moment, like that he could possibly be gone. And I ha-ha'd this post and I kept scrolling and then I saw another one and it still didn't even hit. It was like, okay, like,
Yeah.
and then it was again. And then in that moment I was like, wait a minute, you know, this is real. And it kind of, at this point, you know, you've been through it a little bit and then it kind of brings back all that other stuff. You know, it's like, really? And again, the community rallies. We get together at the wake. We get together at the funeral. We're all together, you know, mourning and grieving and crying and laughing and celebrating his life and being angry at his life and that it wasn't long enough or that he didn't get enough out of it or whatever the case may be. You know, but we rally. We continue to rally. And then, you know, fast forward again. This young man was a guy that I had the opportunity to coach. I had the opportunity to have him in class a couple of times. And again, a life that ended far too soon in a very tragic manner. We called him J. Rowe, and a Westbrook guy. And that relationship for me was a little bit different. That was more of a professional relationship, having coached this kid and been one of his substitute teachers for an extended period of time, but had the opportunity to get to know this young man. And really a great kid, a spunky kid. Kids responded to him. When he spoke, people listened. He had a very kind of vibrant personality, and he was a kid that made people smile. He made people laugh. He was a very likable kid, And, you know, at this point, it's kind of like, it's like par for the course. It's like every, you know, 8 to 10 months, like here we go again. And it's just, for me personally, that's how it felt. And I don't want to get used to getting good at that process, right? The like, we're going to be okay. Let's hang in there. Let's lean on each other. Like, I don't want to be a professional, like, you know, griever or someone that, you know, has a ton of practice there. I mean, nobody wants that, but that's such as life. I mean, that's kind of what happens. And so for me, you know, as we continue to go, and I honestly, I had to put this list in chronological order because it gets so blurred over the years. I mean, Trey is the first guy on my list here in May of 2015, and he's still my cover photo on Facebook. And there's since been X amount of tragedies, and I'm still processing Trey being murdered 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like, it still hasn't even really clicked yet. And so in July of 2018, my friend Brandon and I, we met and we chatted over some beers and some burgers. Fantastic burger. And, you know, the way he handled it, and his situation was a little bit different because the writing was on the wall a little bit in advance. You know, That's
what you talked about in the intro.
Right. We call him Scuba. I don't even know why or where that came from or what that was all about, but he was Scuba. I met him in rec when we were in first or second grade. He moved to Maine from Florida, became one of my closest, dearest friends. And he's one of those guys too. We all have friends like this where like you're so tight initially, and then like you might, for example, he went to Chevrolet, I moved to Shakopee, or I moved all over the place, and it didn't matter how much time had passed. It was like no time had passed at all. You know what I mean? So we met and we talked about kind of, you know, the weeks, months leading up to it. We talked about that a little bit in the intro when he was expressing his inability to sort of control his own brain. That's when we talked at first about kind of his action plan to conquer this thing and overcome it. And then we also talked about the events leading up to it. And I met with Brandon's grandfather, and we've been in touch since. And we met not too long after Brandon passed away, and we talked a little bit about, you know, Brandon, and got to know him as a person, Brandon's grandfather, Papa. And I remember the way that I handled the Brandon one was very selfish in my mind. And I explained this to Brandon's grandfather, and I said, because that was the last time I saw Brandon, was that day at the bar. And part of it was because he started to kind of break down a little bit, not mentally. I would say he was sharp as a tack through as much as he could be considering the circumstances. But selfishly, I didn't want to see him in that way. I didn't want to, not that I'm going to remember him how I'm going to remember him, but I bowed out a little bit. I just kind of, he had some charity events. He had some gatherings at like Scarborough Downs with friends and family and raising money and all this stuff. And I didn't go. I just pulled I didn't, and I explained this to his papa. I was like, man, it was very selfish of me. And he said, it wasn't selfish. It wasn't selfish at all, because you were able to identify and understand your own limitations as a man and sort of like take a step back and be selfish in a way that would ultimately end up in kind of a selfish progression, if you will. Like, you're selfish now, take care of yourself now, so that way you're in a position to kind of take care of other people at a later date or at a later time, in the future. And it was like, it made me feel good, but again, that situation was unique because we had a little bit of time to sort of, to prep or to kind of think about, okay, well, what is plan A or plan B, or if this happens, then we do this, or if that happens, we do that. Whereas the other situations, boom, it was like, this happened, boom. And so
do you think you were trying to kind of remove yourself from like the same grieving process that you had just been through like 3 times before? Like you kind of wanted to almost forget that in a way?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of that. I think there was a lot of like, don't want to do this. Like, if I just pretend that it's not there, it's not there. If I just ignore it, everything's going to be okay. If I just like shy away from it and just keep having this positive mindset and keep having this sort of growth mindset, then it'll all be okay. And Scuba and I, we stayed in touch via text. Big football guy. We're in a nerd league. He actually got me into it. It's basically fantasy football, but it's no money and it's all positions. So it's all defense, offense, lineman. It's like so much time and effort for just the love of the game. It's like
no reward at all.
No reward whatsoever. He got me in this league. And so we had been talking a lot about football. It was the year that the Patriots had 2 first-round draft picks last year. So Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michel ended up being their 2 first-round draft picks. And so we had a lot of fun leading up to that draft, looking at different, I like this guy. Well, I think this guy fits our scheme a little bit better. We avoided any kind of we had that real conversation at the bar that day. It was like, okay, who's your surgeon? Okay, you're going down to Beantown. Okay, this is the likelihood that it'll be successful. This is what we're shooting for. This is what we hope doesn't go wrong. And then it was like, all right, man, who are we getting in the first round? Should we trade up? Should we trade down? We kind of shifted our focus.
It was like almost like purposeful distraction from it. Right.
For me personally, and I think intentionally, maybe unintentionally, I was trying to probably distract him too a little bit because I know that his girlfriend at the time, I don't know, she's not his widow, but her name's Olivia. She's an absolute love. She's just a sweetheart. I can't say enough great things about her. She and I stayed in touch, and as we got closer, kind of to the end, he was breaking down a little bit physically and mentally, and so she kind of became that beacon of conversation and that communication, and so for me it was kind of like I knew that he had mom and all these different people checking in on him physically, or it was like, hey, let's just focus on something else. Like, let's just talk about, he's a big LeBron guy. I can't stand LeBron. I'm warming up to LeBron. It's sports hate. Excuse me, with LeBron. Like, he's a good dude off the court, like no controversy, but I'm just not a big LeBron guy. But so we would talk about, LeBron and Brady, and actually I want to pull this up really quick. I don't know if I've showed you guys this. So his girlfriend got Brady to this is June of 2018.
Oh, no way.
No. What's up, Brandon? I heard everything that you're going through, and I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you, and I wish you the best of luck. And hang tough, and we're going to win some games for you this year. So take care of yourself, man. Good luck.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So the GOAT himself. So his girlfriend, I don't even know how she's like slid into Brady's DMs or like how she facilitated this, but Tom Brady, and of course they went on to win the Super Bowl that year, right? They beat the Rams, you know what I mean? And Brandon, of course, didn't get to see that game. A lot of people said that was a boring Super Bowl. As a special teams guy myself, I loved it. I would argue Ryan Allen, the punter, should have been the MVP of that game. He was obviously just recently cut by New England, but fantastic football game. But just really cool that, TB12 reached out, just showing his love and support. And that one was different for me. That one was tough. I remember a couple days after he passed, I was leaving him voicemails on his phone. Because I think his voicemail was still set up, so he still kind of hears. And I would call him. I would call him once or twice a week, and then when it was like, this number is no longer in service, it was like you just break down it, because then it becomes more real. Then it becomes like, So that one for me was challenging, but again, it sort of added to this like I've got to do something. I've got to do something. I don't know what that is. I don't know what, but I know why. I don't know what the what is or the how or the where or the when, but I know why I've got to do this. And for me, that's kind of where it starts. You know what I mean? That's where it starts. And so just recently, man, in March, our buddy Shawn, I got his wristband on, Airman McCoe. This guy just, it's funny because a lot of these guys, Trey, DJ, Kevin, and Shawn, were all younger than me. I moved to Westbrook as a sophomore in high school. I alluded to that in the trailer. These guys were all younger than me by a year or two or three, but I looked up to these guys. I mean, DJ was younger than me, but he was 6'5", 225. I mean, I literally and figuratively looked up to these guys, man. And Shawn tragically was killed protecting people, and the irony here with Shawn is that he was overseas. I mean, he had served here, he had served there, he had gone into places where you're like, oh man, I hope you get back safe, dude. Like, Godspeed, like, be safe, please. And then when we hear that he's coming back home to the United States, back home to Little Rock, and you're like, like that collective sigh of relief, like, oh, thank God, he's safe. Like, thank God he's back home in a non-combat area. He's safe. He's secure. Him and his girlfriend Sarah they got a puppy. I think they were buying a house. I don't know if they had just bought a house. They were closing on a house. Thank God they get to kind of start their lives together. And I was we play on PlayStation 4, and Shawn, he was in Korea, was it? So when we would be up late into the early morning playing Fortnite, he would just be logging on. So I actually got to know Shawn a lot over the last, 12, 16, 18 months through Fortnite, through Madden, through video games. And I mean, you spend a lot of time on there and you're chatting with people, and it's like, and that is when I found out what had happened. It was in that same group chat. It was in that same PlayStation lobby where it was like, hey, did you guys hear about? And it's like, what are you talking about? Have you heard about? Here we go, and then you start to kind of uncover some of the details and how he went in. And again, I wasn't there and I don't want to speculate, but at the end of the day, he was protecting people. He was protecting people. He was putting himself in front of others in a selfless way. And, at that point, it was kind of like, all right, Johnson, it's bigger than you. Like, quit being, quit shying away from being vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. At that point, it was like, all right, man, the clock is on. You know what I mean? Like the clock is on. Like, we've only got so much time, and I'm not trying to be like, live every day like it's your last, every moment is your last, but like, I kind of am. Like, that's kind of what it comes down to, because it's like the clock is on, and you don't know. And for me, here we go, I'm going to pull it up, we're going to get to it. For me, it's about leaving it out there and not feeling regret, because one thing that I'm trying to overcome, and that's what I'm doing right now in real time, scared to death to put myself out there in front of people for criticism and to be vulnerable and to fail. But for me, I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not. I'm afraid to regret. I'm afraid to wonder, wow, what if I had done it this way? What if I had done it that way? I wonder what the result would have been. I go back to this play, my senior year of high school, man. It's infamous. Anyone that knows me knows the play. Westbrook High School at Wells High School. I'm going to pull it up here. We'll try to get it for you guys so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But first quarter against a very good Wells football team. I think it's play 17. Yeah, it is. And so for me, this play, while as heartbreaking as it is for me, actually, it's the best play in my career. Okay, so it's really not that heartbreaking. A couple plays later is when the heartbreak happens. Okay, but so I'll just kind of run you through it here. It's 3rd and 13. We're backed up in our own end zone, or in our own territory, excuse me. We're on about the 30-yard line or so. And in my head, I'm begging Coach Allen, our offensive coordinator, call this play. You might as well have called it SJ Primetime. Okay, it was loose mini curl right. Okay, that was the play call in the huddle, but it might as well have been called SJ Primetime because this was my play. Okay, so our quarterback drops back to pass. He steps up in the pocket. I get behind the defense. I make the catch. I start to stumble a little bit at the 50, and then I break free, and I'm up the sideline. And Johnson's at the 40. He's at the 35-30. He could score. I cut inside, and that's the regret. Okay, I'm gonna go through it one more time.
So if you had just stayed straight, you would have scored the touchdown.
I would have scored the touchdown. Okay, so you get behind the defense. Now, if you watch here, this is Aaron Duncanson. This kid slips, okay? As a coach, my coaching point here is don't slip. Yeah. Don't slip. Get your
whatever
foot.
You do, don't slip.
Yeah, whatever you do, be an athlete and don't fall on the ground.
Be standing.
Right. And so as you can see, I'm so excited. Yeah. Normally I catch the ball and I go right down. It's like, I don't know.
Dude, you're in the clear right now. Like,
dude, hey, he's going, come on. Dunks up top. I mean, that thing is sealed. Jimmy Wheatley. Can we talk about this guy's effort for a second? Look at number 80 at the bottom of the screen. Look at this guy. Look at the motor. Look at him get out in front. Look at him go. Look at the seal. It's perfect.
No, that's a primetime play.
That's a primetime play. Get upfield. Look at the quarterback. That's my quarterback. Terry Weber, number 2, my dude. Okay? Get upfield, Johnson. What are you doing?
And you've broken the mic right now.
Broken the mic. I'm a little too loud. I'm sorry. Look at this. So I cut back in. I got tackled. Coaches are going crazy.
Was this like a very important game?
Okay, so this was second round of the playoffs. These guys haven't lost a game all season. Wells, okay? They went on to win the state championship. Okay. We are 0-0 first quarter. Okay. Now, after that big play, I'm out of the game because I'm a situation. I'm like the 3rd or 4th receiver in a run heavy offense. Okay. And so I didn't even care. I'm on the sideline just getting our crowd going. I didn't even care that I didn't score in this moment because I knew we got the Fitzpatrick, we got the best fullback in the state. We got our quarterback, Terry Time. Anyone can score here. I don't care. So first play, we run belly. Okay. They get us. So now that's a 2-yard gain. I mean, 2nd and goal from the 2. Make my day. We're about to take the lead against the undefeated state champs. Okay. Next play. And actually, just real quick. So after my big play, I was so razzed up that they had called this same formation here. And I was so hyped that I wasn't on the field. And they had to call a timeout. So that probably plays a role in this somehow. But so here we go. And Terry, I love you, baby. You know I love you, but it's part of my story. It's part of my life. It's part of the legacy. Ball's on the ground. Scoop and score. Joey or Jerry Spinelli? I can't. It's not.
He fumbled it?
He fumbled it on the one, and so that kid just house call all the way. Honest to God, you don't see me in the picture because I literally shed a tear on this play, like literally because I knew.
Were you a senior?
I was a senior. This is it. This was the last football game I'd ever played in, and so the biggest play in my life ended up translating to 6 points for the other team. And I could have, should have, would have put this ball in the end zone, given us the lead. So the Spinelli kid that returned the kick for a touchdown, he was also their field goal kicker. So he was so tired from running that he missed the PAT. So it was 6-0. We held them to 6 points in the whole first half. So we ended up at halftime, it was still 6-0 in that game. So like, I am always like, dude, had I scored and it was 6-0 good guys, how would that get? I mean, we might be flirting with a Westbrook High School state championship in football, which when you say that out loud, it's like almost laughable. But it's not because we had the team, we had a roster, we had some dudes, and it's like, so for me, that right there, that regret of like, man, just keep staying up the sideline. Like, what are you doing? Don't cut in. Like, it's like, it's not going to ruin my life, but it's meaningful enough to me that it's going to give me enough fire under my ass to say like, I don't ever want to feel that again.
Yeah. And that's like the thing that you can almost like get over regret by saying, okay, I'm going to take that. Like you can't change that. Like, that was not a primetime play.
Right.
And you need to like live with that. But the thing that you take from it is that, you gain some fortitude from it that, okay, this is how regret works. Like, I just have to live with this. And even though I'm not going to have another opportunity to do that, like, there are other things I can do to try to minimize regret in the future. And you don't want to, like, say, hey, I'm starting a podcast, and then, like, 3 years down the line, like, don't have any episodes out yet or something. So, I felt like I could have done a podcast.
Exactly.
But I think, so, like, the goal for this podcast, like, what would you say it is? Like, in what way would you kind of connect what you were talking about in the intro and these tragedies to what you see this podcast becoming?
I think for me, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm teaching, whether I'm podcasting, whether I'm hanging out with you guys or anybody, I'm trying to make the people around me better and from like a content standpoint, if it's a classroom, from a football standpoint, if it's football, I want to make people feel good. I want people to feel empowered and feel confident and feel like they matter, because they do. And I know that from my own experiences, like, it feels good to feel good. You know what I mean? And like, at the end of the day, I want this show, this primetime show, to be fun, entertaining, engaging. I want to make people think. I want to help encourage people think. I'm not going to make you do anything. I'm not going to force you to do anything. I just simply want to provide an opportunity or an experience to kind of grow from or to take something away from. My dad has been telling me since I was a young kid, Sam, you're a star. You're a star. I'm so proud of you.
Keith Fletcher?
Yeah.
Joker.
Why so serious? No.
Agent of Chaos.
Dad, take off that makeup.
Dad, you're scaring me. No.
I got these scars.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything because
My father.
He had a knife in my mouth, so I wasn't able to respond. That's why I started this podcast.
Right. But so he's like, I guess if you hear something enough, you kind of start to believe it a little bit. And having kind of bounced around throughout my life from school to school or district to district, I've been able to sort of adapt and mold and kind of find myself and stay true to myself, but also sort of adapt to the culture that I find myself in. I grew up in Portland, Maine, and having gone to Riverton Elementary School and Lincoln Middle School, and then having moved to Shakopee Valley, a completely different demographic. And being able, and I think I've always done a good job of like making it work for myself and finding kind of creative ways to listen to the community and the culture and kind of fit in, but also like remain true to who I am as a person. Having moved out west to Oregon for a little under a year, and then again just like kind of making it work, and then moving back to Maine. And I mean, by the time I got to Westbrook as a sophomore, that was my third different high school. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, you know, I had all these experiences that I had to overcome, but like I did, you know what I mean? Like, and I did that, but I know that a lot of people had a lot harder or tougher circumstances or situations than I did, but that doesn't discredit like what I've done. And I guess like for the listeners, like you've got to be able to pat yourself on the back a little bit. You know what I mean? Like my buddy just posted something the other day about how, you know, why can't people just do good things just because they're good things? Like, why can't people just do something nice for someone and not talk about it? And they can, but I think we have got to get to a point, and this is more of a societal thing, you know, but it's like, it feels good to feel good. So like at the end of the day, like that's all I'm really going for. I want to make people feel better, and I want to feel good myself, and I want to not feel bad about doing that. So if I want to pat myself on the back and say, hey, I'm really proud of this work that I did, then I'm going to do that. And for me, I'm going to encourage other people when I see them doing great things, because, and I'll be the first to admit that when my buddy texts the group chat and says, I got a promotion, I'm like, why you? Why not me? Like, that's where I go initially. And then I have to overcome that selfishness and say, hey, wait a minute. Good for you, man. Like, I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering for you. And so for me, it's kind of like breaking this mindset of like negativity. And it's like, we just kind of focus on the bad stuff. And it's just like, why? You know what I mean? Like, why? We can make a conscious choice to choose kind of the direction that we want to head in. And for me personally, having all these adverse experiences, seeing not all my buddies, but a handful of my good friends, you know, die in a variety of different ways and through a bunch of different experiences, like the clock's on. And my time is all I have. And I refuse to spend it in a way that is negative or draining from a physical or emotional standpoint. I just refuse to do that. I'm at a point in my life now where I've had enough experiences, whether it be wells, whether it be, you know, moving to here from there, whether it be, you know, whatever the case may be. I have enough experiences in my life to say, hey, wait a minute, this is how I want to spend my time. This is who I want to spend my time with. You know, this is where I want to spend my time with. So I feel comfortable and confident to sort of make those decisions and declarations for myself. And I want to encourage other people to do that too. You know, we say things like, you know, we have one life, or like, you know, I don't care what other people think, but like at the end of the day, we have to do, and I have to do. I've been talking about doing a podcast. I've been talking about writing a blog. I just had a Facebook memory from like 2009 that was like, hey, if I wrote a blog, would anyone read it? That was 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. If I wrote
Wasn't that like 10 years ago people started saying YOLO?
Right.
So you should.
YOLO.
How did that not motivate you?
Right. YOLO. You only live once, man.
Isn't it crazy that like 99% of things we say we're going to do and all of our goals never get actualized? It's only like that 1% that does.
Right.
And that's why it's like so many people, like you were saying with the regrets, it's like people will just get stuck in the past too, and they'll just lament stuff that they should have done. It's almost like they prefer to be there sometimes.
Yeah.
It's weird.
To your point, yeah, like people, like we prefer to be miserable almost. It's like if I post something that's like, oh, I got a promotion, it's like you get a few likes or some thumbs up or some yays. But if I share something that's like, oh, I lost my house and I blah, 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 it's like that news will travel a lot quicker than I feel like the positive news.
Yeah.
But
in reality, it shouldn't be like super filtered either way. And I think that's the idea with this podcast is like, if somebody dies and it affects you, you talk about that.
Right.
But if something's happy, like you also talk about that too.
Right.
Because it's like you'll always see like, you know, like if you're comparing yourself to somebody on Instagram or Facebook, for some reason they're always on vacation. Like How are you still in the Bahamas?
Right.
But then the other way is also weird when somebody's just airing their grievances on Facebook the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they don't. Usually they like repost sad memes or something, or a quote that's clearly calling out their ex-boyfriend.
The subtweet.
And then I hit unfollow.
Right.
Yeah,
I've unfollowed a handful of people lately just because like it feels good to just like let that go. Like I used to play. I got a slow pitch softball team going, and I've been doing it for like 4 or 5 years, and it was my good buddies. Like we go, I was the pitcher. It's the best pitcher in the league, by the way.
Slow pitch.
Yeah, and
underhand.
Right. And it got to a point like year 3 or 4, it was like no matter what the result of the game, we could have won 20-0. We could have lost 20-0. We could have won on a walk-off. It could have been close. No matter the situation, no matter who we played, I felt awful after the game. Like, for whatever reason, it was because like I didn't put you in the lineup where you wanted to be, or you were pissed at me because you weren't playing third and you were playing second, or no matter what, I felt negative. And it was like, I got to a certain point, I think Sarah was like, why are you playing? like, what's your deal? And it was like, I had this moment where it was like, oh no, you know what I mean? It was like, everything just was like, I can see clearly. Oh, I can't do that, yeah. I mean, it was like, everything was just
Disney
like.
now owns your podcast, I'm sorry.
Oh no, Disney, no! Yeah, I don't know all the words.
I'm sell out to Disney.
Yeah. We're not selling out, for the record. We are not selling out on this podcast.
Well,
That was an
right
original
price.
cover by
That
Sam
was a cover
Johnson.
for
Yes.
For $200, we will sell out.
Oh, by the way, subscribe to our Patreon. No.
Have you guys heard about Disney Plus?
Yeah, for $14.99, just 5 small installments. You could watch one Disney movie. Dude, I just got. That's funny. That's good stuff. But
You're talking about like how we're so selective, right? With figuring, like with just looking at negative parts of life. Mm-hmm. It's some sick fascination that a lot of us have.
Right. Oh, and so right. Thank you, Joe. Get me back on track. So I pulled the plug. I said I'm not doing softball anymore. And I was like, well, why not? I said, because I don't want to. It doesn't bring me joy. I don't want to spend my time doing things that I don't. If it's not a net positive, then I don't want to do it. You know, and I think I'm at a point in my life, both personally and professionally, where I feel comfortable and confident to make those choices. And I want to encourage other people too to do that too. Take care of yourself. Like, I'm extremely selfish at times, but it's so that I can be selfless. Like, I'm no good to anybody else if I'm no good to myself. If you've been on an airplane, you know that, you know, when they go over the safety protocols, I use this analogy all the time. You know, you have to put your own mask on first, and then you help mom or dad or your neighbor or whatever the case may be. But if you don't have your mask on, you are no good to those other people. You got to take care of you first. So for me, I'd be lying if I said that this. I mean, look at the name, the SJ Primetime Show. I mean, it's like it's a little bit about me, but the idea is that the translation is like selfish to selfless. It's like if I can put myself in a position to be successful where I feel like I'm in a good place, then I'm going to go ahead and pay that forward tremendously. I mean, in my life, I've had so much support from teachers, coaches, and now I'm in a position where I'm a middle school teacher. I teach an alternative education program where I support kids that fall beneath the cracks, that don't qualify for ELL services, don't qualify for special ed services. The kids that we don't want in our class, like, can you get this Sam Johnson kid out of my class? Like, you send that kid to me and I coach him up and I support him. And I was that kid too. And so I'm so excited to be in a position to kind of pay it forward in a way that to me feels like the right way. You know, been coaching football, been coaching tennis, and I just want to like give and support and you know, I just think it's what I do. You know, it's what I do. I've moved around a million times in my life. I connect with people. Anyone that knows me knows that I have a sort of genuine ability to connect with people, and I care about people. I value conversation and communication and relationships, and so for me, that's kind of what this thing is all about. And to be honest, who knows where this thing's gonna evolve to or grow to or where it's headed. I mean, who knows? I think, you know, for me, the possibilities are kind of open and endless, and, you know, we'll see. But for me right now, if I just kind of take a step back and look at my life where I just turned 25, I feel like I'm putting myself in a position to be successful, and it hasn't always been easy. Hasn't always been fun, but I feel good about it, where we're headed and where we're going, and you know, I'm just excited. You know, I think people like you, we were just talking about, Joe, like, I mean, what is it? It's August, September. I mean, it's
gonna be September soon.
It's gonna be September.
Tomorrow.
And it's like, I'm still working on my New Year's resolution, read more books, work out. Like, I'm still trying to work.
You got a few more months left.
We got a few more months. And I think, I mean, how many of us say, like, I want to write a book. I want to do this. I want to hike the Appalachian Trail. I want to do that. And it's like, you know what? The clock is on. We out here. We can do that. Yeah. And so for me,
the funniest thing is that I was using Google Trends. So you can like type in what people will keyword search and all that. Mm-hmm. And if you type in diet, fitness, nutrition, literally early January, spike right off the graph and then trickles all the way down to nothing by April. And no one cares anymore.
Isn't that funny? It's just, and I don't think it's like, our intentions are good. They're pure. We want to get better. We want to grow. We want to be vulnerable. We want to be uncomfortable and develop, but it's hard. It's hard, man. This is hard. Yeah. This is hard to like put yourself out there because we're so critical of each other. We just want to tear each other down.
Well, especially when like somebody else is like building too. Like they're building their life and everybody's like, wait, why are you doing that? Or like
that makes me feel like I'm not building my life.
Oh, yeah. so you're going to the gym now. Why? Yeah. Why would you need to do that?
Exactly. And it's like, dude. And I'm in that camp. I'm in that boat. I'm not sitting here saying like, I don't do that, because I do. I'm
I think everybody feels that. Because it's just a sign of your sense of your own inadequacies.
Exactly.
Like, you kind of, like, I don't know. I feel like most people feel that. Almost everybody feels that in some way. And it's like, if you can just be honest about it.
Not Conor McGregor.
If you...
Fuck the Mayweathers.
But if you can be honest about it, it's like, then that's the first step into like consciously stopping that.
Exactly.
And saying like, okay, let's just be honest. Everybody feels jealousy to some extent. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to a podcast the other day where he was talking, it was like the laws of human nature, where he was talking about like, but we tell ourselves we're not actually feeling jealousy. We're telling ourselves like, no, I'm just legitimately curious why they would want to go to the gym. Or because we have very good ways of masking our own emotions. And so that's why I feel like this podcast is a good space to just like, the MO should kind of be, let's just be honest and like admit that you're not a perfect person.
Right.
And we have flaws, but like you could never work on those flaws unless you admit that you have them.
Yeah, it's about understanding it and then overcoming it, right? It's like, okay, now I've identified that I have this shortcoming or this issue, and now I need to take it a step further and try to acknowledge it, be mindful, be aware of it, and then how can I change my mindset or change my way of thinking or my way of communicating or having that kind of thought process manifest itself into the real world. Because again, I don't have all the answers. I'm 25. Like I'm learning, I'm growing, but I think
that's why you should turn this podcast off, because Sam is really an idiot.
He knows nothing.
Don't listen. Just shut it off. If you're still listening at this point,
he literally has no answers, right?
I don't have a single answer, guys. Man, how do you guys? I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, we can turn this podcast off too. I mean, we can.
Holy cow, guys! Hey, listen. Appreciate you guys for listening, man. we'll see what develops. I'll get up we'll get like a Gmail going. We'll get so you guys can send some questions in or send some thoughts in or comments. And we'll just kind of see, we'll see where this thing goes and what transpires and what develops. My hope is that we can kind of ramp up not the intensity, but the amount of podcasts that we do. But for now, we're going to stick to once a month, and we'll just kind of see what develops here. Appreciate you guys for listening, man.
And Disney, if you're watching, Sam's willing to do covers apparently. So $200 a spot.
We can negotiate on price.
We can. It's negotiable.
It's all about money.
It's all about money. That's why we're doing this. Is for
just to get to the end of it. Yeah, it's like
we're actually awful people.
Just want your money in my pocket, essentially. No.
Disney presents the SJ Primetime Show.
Well, my dad, when I was a kid, last thing, I asked my dad, "Are we rich?" And he said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, sweet. Tell me more. Tell me more."
And you were getting reduced lunch.
Yeah, I'm getting free and reduced lunch. I'm getting, the same rubberized Salvation Army basketball that gets donated every year to my family. Yeah. And I'm like, "Are we rich?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Okay, tell me a little more." And he goes, because of the friends we have and the people in our lives and all these things that not what we have, but who we have and why we have. Okay, so are we rich? Okay, cut that out. Like, what are you talking? I was like, "Can we go to McDonald's?" And he said, "No." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because I don't have any money." I was like, "But I thought you said we were rich. Like, what are you talking about?" But all jokes aside, I'm starting to kind of understand what he meant by that about, who you have, not what you have, and kind of the relationships and the people. So, we're sitting here joking about money, but I honestly feel like I'm rich, and it has nothing to do with being a full-time teacher and making however much a year, although that is more money than I've ever made in my life.
It's 7 figures.
Right. Might as well be. It feels like it. I feel rich in a bunch of different ways, man. So I'm just excited, guys. It's been awesome. I can't wait to kind of move forward with you guys and again, see how this thing develops and progresses over the next few months, man. Season 1, episode 1. Thank you guys so much for listening, man.
It's going to evolve, and see how
It's good. Yeah. It's been a wrap.
SJ Primetime Show, baby.